Just want to call the order the engineer committee meeting this morning.
Thank you, sir. Roll call vote. Philip Lim. Jason Carter.
Here.
Dr. Ash. Alton Heathcote.
I'm here.
Eddie Jett. And James Collins.
Here.
Great. Chair, we have quorum. And before we start, just some just quick little housekeeping reminder. Unfortunately, I won't be on video today. One, our video streaming is somewhat kind of glitchy, but
That's
then
a
also
blessing for us, Glenn.
I figured you'd be relieved. Plus, having my leg up in the air is probably somewhat distracting. So we'll forego the video. But nonetheless, also, if you could, I can't be there to hear your voices. So if you're not speaking in the mic with the red light on, I can't hear you. So just if you could, just be really kind of cognizant of that, and that'd really help me out a lot. So I appreciate you. So Chair, we're free for the first item of the agenda.
All right, so the first item we have is a fresh start review. And Glenn, I don't know if you have the details of that you can go through
Yes,
us
sir.
with? Okay.
Sure can. All right, so we've got Michael Poe before us. You've also got his information. There's two items you're looking at. One is his notice of discharge, and then his personal letter to the committee as well. This is an aptitude test. So I don't know if there was a couple of you that might have had some confusion as if he was a licensee in Kentucky, but that's another Michael Poe. So the one we have before us is an aptitude test. He is not a licensee. His felony conviction is for second-degree manslaughter in the state of Kentucky in 2016. Received his engineering degree from the University of Kentucky in 2024 and would like to sit for the test. Typically, we are looking at applications for license, but obviously, we don't want to encourage someone to prove an aptitude test if there's no pathway for them. So the discussion here is, would this be an applicant that meets the high threshold of fresh start or not? And if he does not, then we would permit him to test. And as you know, the felony must be directly related to the profession. In past cases, the felony offenses were potentially or directly related to profession, requiring additional deliberation and discussion in committee. When we sent this one for board member review, both members did agree there was no nexus in that regard here, but still requested discussion in committee, which is fine. That's wholly appropriate, and that would be the right of the committee to do so. I think just due to the degree or the nature of the charge, I think there was probably just that desire for due diligence to bring that for the board and have a discussion about this case or similar cases. Of course, we don't have to necessarily convene in a committee meeting to express our unanimity in favor or acknowledgement that there is no connection. Of course, I understand the desire to ensure that was the case here. So that's really the sum of the discussion, and I'll let you take it from there.
All right, are there any comments or thoughts from the committee members?
Seems to me like this is the exact scenario that the Fresh Act is for. It's unrelated to the profession. He served his time. So I would be in favor of allowing him to proceed.
I concur.
We don't necessarily need a vote. We would just need the two signatures on that aptitude test, which if Ashley, she can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we already have. But obviously, this is a healthy discussion, and that's the whole purpose of the committee. So I appreciate you framing that up. Was there any further discussion on that?
I just have a quick question. I mean, I don't know if it's an actual review parameter or not, but generally when you're looking at somebody's, I guess their application for licensure, one of the reasons that we get references is for demonstration of an individual's character and integrity. And I haven't reviewed this individual's case, but is there a demonstration that this person possesses the professionalism, integrity, and character that we would normally consider in before we assign somebody the right to call themselves a professional engineer?
We would get those references at the time of their application, and so we're not there yet. But and then you would have another, you would get another bite of the apple once you get those references. This is just saying that, hey, you meet the requirements to test, and it's sort of a kill question with the fresh start, like, because if there's not a pathway for them, obviously we don't want somebody to go through the expense, the time, and the trouble of trying to sit for a test when there's no pathway for them. So that's where we're at, right? We're in the preliminary stages now, but to your point, they will have references when they come to apply.
And is this person engaged as an engineer now? Is he with a firm or company now? Is he practicing engineering?
No, sir, not to my knowledge. There's no indication of that. This would be an aptitude test, which I suspect would be would be him moving towards probably the engineering intern.
Okay. Did Andy just tell me that he just graduated a year ago?
Yeah, 24.
Okay.
I think the other thing about this too, related to the character stuff, is that the type of felony here is not something that is necessarily that would call into question somebody's character.
Right, correct.
Because it was a traffic accident.
Okay, all right, that's,
Not happen to anybody.
Yeah.
sure,
Could
I
have
understand that.
happened.
Okay, thank
Right.
you for clarifying that.
Any other thoughts or questions from anybody regarding this? Okay, then you say we don't need to take a vote?
No, sir. We have the 2 signatures that we needed. I think and the reason why we teed you guys up first with the landscape architects is because they were going to need the balance of the hour. They've got I think a couple more hardier issues, but didn't want to lose the opportunity since we were already convening to allow you the opportunity to discuss that. So unless you have any new business, then we could just move on to the next committee. But that's solely your discretion. We wouldn't adjourn, of course, because this is one continuous meeting.
Right. Any new business from anybody?
I'll mention briefly, and I think it's on the agenda in the full board meeting, but the NCAAS Southern Zone meeting, I'm on the EPE committee, James, I think you know that. They asked me yesterday to present the findings of that committee at the Southern Zone meeting. So I said, well, I'll be in Puerto Rico. I'll do it. So you may be presenting
Yeah,
something from EPP too.
exactly,
So we
yeah.
both may be talking there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me. I think I sent out something to you gentlemen already, but our funded members, primarily because your work already in committees, would be Collins, Carter, and then Jet. And then our state funded would be the other 3 members on our committee. So we're putting in a request now and sending that up the chain. But NCAAS funded will be the 2 on the committee, and Eddie Jet. So NCAAS will be reaching out to you in particular, and then the other 3 will be state funded.
Jason, I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk about the conversation you had with the university professor that you sent us the email about getting the professors registered.
Yeah. We've actually had that conversation with them before. You know, traditionally, in previous years in our October meeting, we asked the deans from the various colleges to come, and that was always part of the conversation about, look, you're teaching engineers, and you ask us to come speak to those classes to promote licensure, but some of the staff that you hire are not licensed. And we'd like to find out if we can encourage you to do that. And all of them, to their credit, every one of them wanted to do that. And they try to reach out, but evidently the pool of resources that they have for people that are willing to teach and have the ability to teach may not include some that are licensed professionals.
Yeah.
So, which I understand,
So, well, let me, I guess to James' point, let me kind of summarize
Yeah.
the conversation that I had. So talking to the chair of the Civil Engineering Department at Tennessee Tech, he is licensed. There are a handful in the Civil Department at Tech that are licensed. The other departments, I would suspect very few are. But we were talking about that specific issue. He said the problem is there is no distinction in terms of salary, anything like the ability to get tenured, nothing like that, at least at the public universities, to encourage licensure. And so what I'm trying to brainstorm ideas how we as a board can encourage that, and maybe can the part of the grant be in their application, can they request some sort of, whatever we want to call it, stipend, some sort of monetary amount to give to the ones that are licensed? Maybe pay for their, I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I've actually read all of the constraints associated with the issuance of the grants. I don't think that would be an eligible item for
Okay.
consideration, but it's probably something that's worth reviewing
Yeah.
and trying to evaluate whether or not we could, or there's some other
Or is there
mechanism
something
to
else,
do it.
yeah, something else that we can do?
This is not a universal rule, because I know where I teach at Arkansas State, and when you go through in front of the PRT committee, the promotion and tenure, if you are actually licensed, that count for points. You know, it gives you it's a better application. And to be honest, more importantly than just having a license, that will give the professor a chance of doing consulting and practice,
Right.
which makes him a better teacher. And that's the part they are lacking. You know, it's a whole lot better to bring real life experience to the class than just fictitious conditions. Yeah.
Does bring a real sense of credibility, doesn't it, Dr. Ash?
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to think that people that are teaching you, particularly at the upper level courses, the junior and senior courses, that they have actually practiced engineering and performed those calculations.
ASCE encouraged that. Unfortunately, some schools discourage it because they think it's a way for the staff, the faculty, to make more money that they are not entitled to making, or taking them away from their university duties. So that's unfortunate, because it just makes them better teachers and even better researchers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. Real life experience.
Yeah, maybe as a first step, we could include in the guidelines for the applications now that not only would we reimburse the fees for students taking the exam, but also do that for professors taking the exam.
Yeah.
And maybe do that as a first step and see what kind of response we get out of that.
Glenn, can we refer that to, up towards the commissioner level to the, Laura, who would we refer that to for a legal review?
I can send over to contracts. They have their legal team over there to review that. I was actually writing it down as an action item as you were talking. But yeah, I'll report back to you on that, and we'll take a look.
Great, thank you. I really like that idea.
There's any more business or new business from the engineer committee?
I do have one thing. It's not necessarily engineering right now, but it is alarming, and it could potentially reach that level. I know, and I sent this to Blair. I got a notification from a friend of mine who has an engineering firm here in Nashville that they practice all over the state, but that the city of Chattanooga is in the process of potentially passing legislation at the local level to reverse the requirement that landscape architect plans have to be prepared by a licensed landscape architect. Evidently there's a lot of discussion about that right now, a lot of concern. And if they would do it for landscape architects, the next progression may be, what then do we need a professional engineer to seal plans? I don't know.
Can they
Well-
do that?
Well, actually, I had a long conversation with Glenn about that. And Glenn, you want to share our discussion and your counsel on that?
Well, that's a great teaser because you're actually just teed it up for the landscape architect committee coming after you guys. I think they're gonna, or at least the chair was
You're welcome,
considering
Blair.
bringing that up.
You're
to
a
the
good
Yeah,
man.
I think it's gonna bring that up in new business because the development was so fast, and like right after the agenda was posted, that the thought was that our chair there was, and can't speak for him, but it does. The indicator seems to be that may be coming up in new business after the uniform standard comparison.
That is correct. Are we, engineering committee, all complete?
Yeah, I think the engineering committee is complete at this point.
All right. Well, let's take a quick little. I guess not a recess, but just we'll transition over. If you guys, the landscape architect committee, if they want to get in their place, and I think they are. I can barely see on the screen, but it looks like Mr. Carter and Mr. Wax are already there. So, in that order,
that.
Chair, if you like, we can call the landscape architect committee to order if you like.
Yes, let's call the landscape architecture committee to order. And do we need a roll call,
right.
or do we need that for a
Yes,
committee
sir.
meeting?
Yes, sir. Frank Waxter,
Here.
Jason Carter,
Here.
Blair Parker.
Here.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
You have a quorum, chair, and you're good to go.
Great, thank you. We have two items to discuss, unless you want to add additional items. The first would be the comparison of the Tennessee licensure requirements to the suggested or the uniform standard as prepared by CLARB, which is the Council of Landscape Architecture Registration Boards. And I've looked at this two different ways. CLARB has suggested that every jurisdiction, every state and jurisdiction, review this to maybe put on record whether or not we're going to go in entirely with what their suggestions are or not, in any kind of changes or differences that we may have. And so what I've done, I've looked at this two different ways. I've prepared a written description. Glenn, I believe you have this. I'm not sure if you distribute it amongst.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have this written description, and this is just a general description of what Blair Parker believes the changes or the differences are between the two. And by and large, Tennessee matches up fairly well with what CLARB's suggested licensure recommendations are. There are a few items that are a little bit different, and those items would be Tennessee, we use comity, which is different than reciprocity. In CLARB's written recommendations, they use the word reciprocity. So the difference, as I understand it, is comity when somebody comes in from another jurisdiction and they have the recommendation, obviously, of that they're licensed in another jurisdiction, and they come in, they can come through the door with reciprocity, come in without any question whatsoever. Whereas in Tennessee, we still review their education, we still review their education and all the requirements. Okay, and that's, Glenn, correct me if that's incorrect, Laura, whomever, if that's an incorrect description. But that is
Yes, sir.
the difference
It's
there.
one pathway.
So in CLARB's use of reciprocity, they basically say, hey, if you're registered in Kentucky and you want to get licensed in Tennessee, just submit it to Tennessee, and if Tennessee accepts reciprocity, there's no more questions. Bam, you just have to pay your fee and so on. Tennessee, we still use comity, and I personally, I frankly think it's a good thing. But that's, that's one of the differences. References, CLARB is not real wild about references. The basis for their thoughts are that if you ask somebody for a reference and they give you a poor reference, I mean, shame on you. That should never happen. But I will tell you, we on this board, we have seen that before. I mean, we have seen that. But references, CLARB does not recommend any references, whereas we do here in Tennessee. And probably the biggest difference right now, and this is where I think we need further discussion maybe at the next meeting, because I'd like you to look at this and compare this, say, to the engineering side and to the architectural side, but the various pathways to licensure. So I prepared a spreadsheet. I'm one of these guys. I won't apologize for it. I prepared a spreadsheet, basically that says, okay, what our requirements are and what CLARB's requirements are. And CLARB has different pathways to licensure that we in Tennessee do not currently offer. But I also know that I believe that both on the engineering, the NCEES and NCARB side, that both entities are looking at that or have already put something together on that. Does that sound correct?
As in,
Different.
Alternate
Alternate
pathways.
pathways to licensure.
correct. And I think the short answer is that requires legislative action.
Right, yes.
Which we actually took 2 years ago, or 22, I guess it was, wasn't it, when we enacted the decoupling and the fourth alternative path to licensure, allowing engineering technology as a pathway.
Yes.
So, yeah, but it did have to go through legislative review and approval.
So being the sole landscape architect on the A&E board, I felt it was up to me to sort of figure this thing out and to figure out what the differences are. And that's why I went through this.
Hey, one thing real quick. Hey, Glenn, is it okay if Blair, I don't know what the protocol is, does he have to send the spreadsheet to you for screening and then you send it out?
That'll be on your, yeah, that'll be on your iPad.
Okay.
All the committee meetings, always they're denoted by their abbreviated form, like engineer BNG and landscape architect LA. So yeah, if you scroll down, yep.
Yeah. So,
I guess, Blair, my main question is, well, there's two questions. One is, let's say we decide to totally line up with CLARB, or their version of the path to licensure. If we do that, what legislation would we have to do? In other words, it looked like we would have to eliminate a requirement for references. What are the things? What are the items that would have to be brought to the legislature to revise?
and I think that's the next step. But I do believe that, I have my biases, and there are many things I'd love to change in what we do, in the legislation, whatever, in our laws and rules. But I have to say, when I attend these CLARB meetings and hear what other jurisdictions go through, and CLARB keeps coming back asking us sort of how we do things, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, I believe we are well respected in the United States, certainly, in the world of landscape architecture, for how we approach things. So I like that idea that we really need to see what it would require. But I think first and foremost, for example, this little spreadsheet, do all of these different pathways to licensure, do they make sense? Do we believe as a committee that they make sense, and a board that they make sense? But secondarily, whatever we decide, then what will it take to get to that point?
Okay, a question on experience. Do you have to have the experience before you can take the exam?
Yes, well, no, not in CLARB's recommendations. In Tennessee, we do.
Yeah, I definitely would not favor having somebody with no background, no schooling, however you want to say it, to just come take the exam. I mean, they could go take the exam, no idea, no intention of being a landscape architect, just so they could memorize a few questions and go sell them to somebody. I mean, somebody with 8 years, I see that on here, of experience, I would be good with them taking the exam. I mean, it used to be, that's all it took. There weren't any architectural schools from our tech side, and experience means a lot. But to take the exam with no experience, doesn't sound right to me, and that, and NCARB, we're dealing with NCARB the same thing. I don't agree with theirs. I guess the shortfall of not lining up with them is we look like we're not treating people right or not giving people the opportunity. And so we've got to kind of balance that some way.
I'm not too, personally, I'm not worried. I mean, that doesn't cross my mind. If it takes a little extra to become licensed in the state of Tennessee, I'm fine with that. You know, but I don't think our current requirements are overbearing.
Right, I don't
I
either.
truly don't.
I don't either. But apparently some people do.
They do, and you know, CLARB's mission, yeah, we know what CLARB's mission is, as
There were
is,
more people.
the more people, the more licensees we have, the better. So, and, anyway, I wanted to present this to you and give you a chance to look at it. The spreadsheet is, I believe it should be on the iPad of information that I provided, to Glenn. And then you've got this hard copy, but there should be an electronic copy of this as well. What I would recommend is that we have another landscape architecture committee meeting in our next meeting, which is February. And by then, I'll make a determination of these requirements. What would require legislation? I believe most of them would.
Yeah, yeah.
Could I make another suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Get input from ALSA, that's your professional organization, correct?
ASLA, yeah.
Have you gotten any feedback from them on their thoughts on these pathways?
Well, they have this. They have this. They have not provided an absolute recommendation one direction or another. But ASLA and CLARB they're not the same,
Right.
but they work hand in hand in a lot of ways.
Right.
Tennessee ASLA has not provided any recommendation one direction or another at this time. But they do have it, and I've asked them to review this as well, so.
Yeah. I know on our side, it's the professional societies
Right.
are going to be the ones kind of pushing, lobbying for legislation. So
Yeah.
I think that would be a critical component of that, is getting their
Okay,
buy-in and feedback.
okay.
You guys make a really, if I can sort of synchronize or harmonize those last two comments, there's two things you mentioned. Blair, you mentioned, basically what the path forward is, and then, and Mr. Carter, you recommend, you talked about the associations, historically the roles they played in the past in different professions. And so path forward, this is I'm glad that, that Blair brought forth the comparison so you can look at those alternative pathways. I believe NCARB is the only other organization that's probably come as far as CLARB in the process. They have their pathways to practice, also referred to as competency standard for architects. And of course, NCWS is just now kicking around the idea of treating the engineer technology degrees with the same as engineering degrees. That'll be a long conversation, but so that's down the road as far as alternative pathways for them. But while everyone's having this discussion, CLARB, obviously, Blair, you're bringing that to us so we can see the comparison. And now that we've seen that, we realize that there is some deviance from where we're at. That deviation is represented by your comparison. There's, I believe, there's about 3 or 4 different strands or pathways. The thing is, and this is the path forward discussion, the landscape architects, they have one path. Engineering has 3. They have 4, but really 3. Then you've got architects has 3. Interior designers has 4. Landscape architects has 1. So they could adopt the CLARB standard once if and when it becomes finalized, but that would absolutely take legislation. So there wouldn't be anything that the board would be able to do. To Carter's point, when this is where the synchronization comes together, the synthesizing comes. We, as you guys already know, our fiduciary responsibility doesn't include lobbying, and that typically, not always, but typically happens at the association level because they represent a large constituency, and they typically get sponsors and co-sponsors. And then in And through that process, typically we've seen legislation come about, as Mr. Carter has referenced. So this will require a change in the statute. And if history or past practice is any indication, then typically it'll be the associations that are driving much of that through their lobbying efforts. But we wouldn't have any part in that process. So really, it's not a whole lot for us to discuss, but to kind of wait and see what the industry is going to do, the industry themselves and their representatives, what they decide. And of course, whatever they decide, we always enforce that. That's where we come in. And so, but it is still informative to know what the differences are, so we can have that informed discussion as well. So I thank you for bringing that opportunity to all of us.
Thanks for the clarification, Glenn. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, the second item will be an additional agenda item. That is about what Alton brought up, and that is the Chattanooga zoning ordinance, the change, the recommended or the amended landscape ordinance at Chattanooga Hamilton County Regional Planning Agency. They have made the recommendation. It's in writing. We have it here. Glenn has that as well. I'm not sure if it's on our it's probably not on our iPads, but the essence of what's going on is that they call themselves the RPA, the Regional Planning Agency, made a recommendation to change the zoning ordinance with regard to landscape design requirements. They have, in essence, removed any teeth to it whatsoever, my opinion. And there are if this is approved at their city council and goes into effect, it just removes so many current requirements that most landscape architects, and I think most people would agree, are positive in an urban community. So Tennessee ASLA, you can imagine, they have gathered around and been talking about this and been working on this behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, trying to work this through, but it still made it through the regional planning, through the planning commission in essence. And next it goes to their city council. It's been delayed to go to city council. It will probably go to city council next week or the following week. All the while, you can imagine, everybody is upset in Chattanooga about this happening. So I'm contacted about this. What does the A&E board have to say about this? And with my A&E board hat on, first of all, the changes that a local municipality makes, they can do that unless it flies in the face or violates, I believe, unless it violates our state law, statute, and rules. So that has not taken place. And as I read what their recommendation is, I don't necessarily see that it violates anything in our realm. My personal interpretation is that this is not something for the A&E board until something happens, until somebody does something that does violate state law, statute, and rule. So that's my recommendation, that the A&E board, we can sit back and watch. And I do think we need to keep our eye on this, because the thought and the concern from the landscape architects, the Tennessee ASLA, is that, look, this is the first bite of the apple. You remove this from the zoning ordinance, then what comes next? And I'm thinking the 5,000 square foot rule that we have with regard to design professionals and whatever, and that's a loose interpretation when you talk to codes people, and my overall concern is that the codes people are the ones who really, I mean, they're put in a really awkward spot. And so I would love to have more clarification from their perspective, but from an A&E board perspective, this is not something for us at this very time. We just need to keep our eye on it. And Alton, you may have heard something different a little bit further, but the overall concern I hear from everybody is that, look, anyone can do a landscape plan. If this is approved, anybody can do a landscape plan. And I know in the back of my mind that, well, if they violate what we say requires a design professional, then that's when we are called to order and, complaints will come in at that point.
I think there may be, and Glenn and I talked about this in our conversation when I sent this both to you and to him, and I followed up and asked, what recourse do we have? And as a board right now, until somebody actually violates our laws and rules, there's not really anything that we can, no legal action that we can take. However, we can potentially provide an advisory letter or advisory counsel to them, or advisory opinion to them, making sure they clearly understand what the laws and rules are. And then, I suppose, the first time that somebody who's not duly licensed submits a plan to them for their review and approval, that should clearly have a seal on it from a licensed, duly licensed landscape architect, then that's time for action. Then the board can actually take action if somebody submits a complaint. Is that, Glenn, did I misstate that?
Yes, you were fine. I was listening to both of you carefully, and I think Blair teed it up nicely. And yeah, anyone's entitled to an advisory opinion if they were to seek that, and of course go through the process for that. And then of course and I would suspect, though, primarily to Blair's point, the thrust of that, or any notification from us without having any more details, hence the reason we're monitoring it, because we haven't seen it. There's a lot of talk, but the bread hasn't come out the oven yet. There are a lot of ingredients, and people are talking about what kind of bread they want, but we haven't seen it yet, and sink our teeth into it yet. So we have to really monitor, because we really don't know what as they say, it's real, the proof's in the pudding, so we kind of have to wait and see what actually materializes, what manifests when based on that action that's coming down. But to your point, any notification, notices, or instruction from us preliminary would probably pretty much be the same. And Laura can jump in whenever if I get off the rails here. But typically that's going to be, you have to follow our statutes and rules. And if you're engaged in landscaping as defined by the statute, then you need to be licensed. And then once licensed, you would follow the standards of practice, and any deviation there would of course subject you to a complaint and all that comes with that. So so that's why we're kind of in a holding pattern and a wait and see right now.
Glenn, I agree. I understand and I agree with that. And I know Tennessee ASLA and National ASLA, this is a priority item for both. And so they're working on this as a group in hopes I'm not saying change, but possibly amend what the amendment is to, for the betterment of the zoning ordinance. But anyway, I want to bring that up because I do think it's important. And in this discussion, talking to several people, the same thing that Alton mentioned is that this is the first thing that happens. What happens next? And will that affect architecture, engineering, or other aspects of our design world that we are here to protect?
So, and I'm glad you brought it to the forefront, Alton and Blair. These are developments that are happening in our backyard that we always need to keep an eye on if they were to sort of butt up against some of the scope or the jurisdiction that the board maintains, and so that we need to be aware of those things, so we're not blindsided or the first hearing of it coming into a complaint. So it's good to have that information, but at this point we're really just waiting to see what they come up with, and then also we'll be aware. So I'm glad we're collecting the information, so we'll have sort of a reference point should we find ourselves with a complaint in front of us.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that item? No. All right, thank you all. That's the only items I have to discuss. You have anything else? No? If not,
Well, we won't adjourn, but yeah, I felt it in your bones. You probably weren't going there, but we'll just, I guess, recess. Is that okay? Unless the board has any other new business, and then we'll, pick it back up at 10.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Blair. Thank you all.
Call the meeting of the Tennessee Board of Architecture and Engineering examples on Thursday, December the 4th.
Great. Thank you, sir. All right. So, roll call then. Frank Waxter,
Here.
Jeff Nally, Philip Lim,
Yeah.
Jason Carter,
Here.
Melanie Doss,
Here.
Blair Parker,
Here?
Rick Thompson, Brian Tibbs, Dr. Ashraf El Sayed,
Here.
Alton Heathcote.
On the right side of the dirt and here to serve.
Good deal. All right. Eddie Jett
Here.
and James Collins.
Here.
All right. Chair, we have quorum. Looks like the next item is just the notice of the public comment period located at the end of the agenda. This is just an opportunity to remind folks that we do have a public comment period at the end of our agenda. It's right after new business, right before we adjourn. And so that's the opportunity for the public to make the comments that they would have as it pertains to our agenda, and they would do so by signing in to the sign up sheet on the podium, at which time we'll recognize you at that time, and or in the meeting in the comments box, signing in there, which would be your indication that at that time that you would like to speak, and then we'll recognize you as well. All right, so the meeting notice is as follows. Notice of the December 4th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Architectural and Engineering Examiners has been noticed on the website since December 18th, 2024. This month's agenda was posted on November 26th, 2025. All right, and for announcements, I only have one, unless anyone else has something that they would like to cover. As many of you already know, our dear friend and former board member, Mr. Rob Barrick, passed away on November 6th. We were saddened to hear that, and out of respect for his service and just out of care for him as a mutual friend and colleague, if you would permit me, I'd like to read his obituary as presented by his family in the Tennessean, and then just pause for a brief moment of silence. So, if I may, James Robin Barrick, also known as Rob to us, passed away on November 6, 2025 in Nashville, Tennessee. He is survived by his beloved life partner, Tammy Thompson, his twin sons, Luke and Ryan Barrick, and his sister, Sarah Lee Barrick. Born in Nashville, Rob attended Montgomery Bell Academy and received his bachelor's in engineering and master's in business administration from Vanderbilt University, where he also served as an adjunct professor in the School of Engineering for 11 years. Rob spent his 48 working years at Smith Seckman Reed Consulting Engineers and was CEO for 32 years. After he retired, he served as a board member for SRF Consulting Engineers, Minneapolis, Lee Industrial Contractors in Detroit, Environmental Health and Engineering in Boston, and EOSYS Controls in Smyrna. An engineer by training and nature, Rob loved home construction projects and rebuilding old cars. He was an avid fly fisherman and golfer. He was proud that his son shared his passion for the outdoors and fly fishing and chose to become fly fishing guides in Colorado and Wyoming. Known for his understated, down-to-earth wisdom and his wonderful sense of humor, Rob was the always dependable, unflappable person, enduringly faithful to his many friends and family and church community. For years, he quietly served as the sacristan and assistant at the 8 a.m. Eucharist at Christ Church Cathedral. He was a dedicated centering prayer practitioner. Rob served on several nonprofit boards, including STARS Nashville, the Nashville Food Project, St. Mary's Sewanee, Adventure Science Museum, and American Consulting Engineers Council. He founded Mobile Loaves and Fishes in Nashville with 3 high school friends in 2007, which 3 years later became the Nashville Food Project, preparing 1,700 meals a week for the homeless and other nonprofit organizations. And with that, may we observe a brief moment of silence. Thank you for that. Is there any other comments from the board in regards to this or any other announcements that they may have?
Seeing none, I hope everybody's had a chance to review the agenda. And let me please bring up, if you got any, if you want to make any revisions or additions to the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We also have the meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Did we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Yes, we did. It was from Brian Tibbs. And the second was Dr. Ashworth.
Just by way of quick reminder, if you, we only can have 4 mics on at a time. So you'll have to, when you speak, you may have to remove yourself from the mic when you speak, but I can only hear you if your red light is on at the mic. So do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Yes. Brian Tibbs made the motion.
And Dr. Ashworth seconded the motion. And it was approved unanimously. Is that what you need? Glenn?
Glenn, did you pass out?
What about now? Can you, can everyone hear me?
You're back.
Yeah, we lost you there for a second.
All right, great. Sorry about that. Looks like we got disconnected somehow for just a brief moment. Do we have an agenda or excuse me, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
3 or 4 times we have, yeah.
Glenn, did you hear Frank? Glenn, don't know if you can hear us, but your microphone is out.
All right, everyone, please stand by for just a second. We're going to test real quick. I'm having some difficulty hearing you.
Well, there goes the time.
It's official. Frank is not going to set the record for the quickest meeting. My record is still intact.
Yeah, you win.
Yeah, my
You win.
record is still intact.
I think you rigged it myself.
You supposed to finish before 17?
I can hear you now, I think. Can someone speak in the mic real quick?
Yes, this is Frank.
Gotcha. All right, perfect. Thank you, Frank. Didn't mean to cut you off there, sir. I just got excited. So, yes, I can hear you now.
Good.
My mind was racing to all kinds of, not being a tech guy myself, was trying to figure out how to bridge the gap. But it looks like we're back online. We did get, I was instructed that Brian gave the motion with Dr. Ash giving us the second on the agenda. And now that we're reunited, I think we're ready for the approval of the meeting minutes.
That's right.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No changes? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Professional
All right.
society reports.
Thank you, sir. All right, so let me just reach out to our professional societies here. Casey Anderson, are you available?
She is not here and. Really? Is that-
All right, hello, I'm Charles Snyder, a lobbyist that represents the landscape architects in Tennessee. For Casey, she apologizes she's not here. She's actually leading a panel right now on professional licensure. So she's sort of doing the same advocacy work that y'all all do into the public right now. So she wishes you well, and we'll be here in February. But for me, again, I'm Charles Snyder. I'm a lobbyist, represent the Tennessee chapter of the American Society of Landscape Architects. That's always a mouthful. And my report is just going to be really brief. First, in talking to the officers there, they've had a transition with their executive director. They're about to announce the hiring of a new executive director. And I'm not sure whether they'll attend these meetings or they'll continue to send me, but they're excited about that. They also wanted just to report that this summer they did their first strategic planning session. Obviously, the organization's been around for a while, so this was the first time in a long time that they've done that, and they've identified several things that they want to address in the next year, and their next executive director will be tasked with implementing many of those things. Obviously, there was discussion earlier on some things relative to landscape architecture. I'm not authorized to really to speak on those things at this point, but it is an issue of concern for the landscape architect professionals, but also as we sort of think about this, how creep can get into other professions, but also the challenges that codes officials may face if they don't have sort of clear language and distinctions on how they're supposed to judge the submittals that are presented to them. And the final thing is they do not have a date yet for their annual spring conference, but it will be sometime in April. And so hopefully in February I can update you on that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles, for the update and also for letting us catching us up to speed with Ms. Anderson as well. Suzanne Herron.
Hey, good morning. I am Suzanne Herron. I'm a professional engineer representing the American Society of Civil Engineers. For those of you unfamiliar with ASCE, we've got branches and student chapters across the state at schools and just Nashville, Knoxville, Memphis, Chattanooga. We are planning a conference aimed at civil engineers for February 13th, and we've talked about this previously. So we're going to have 5 tracks: civil and environmental, engineering management, geotech, structural, and transportation. And we're also going to have a student track. So we're excited to be bringing in the students and letting them get together with the professionals and giving them that opportunity for networking and just getting to know professionals in the real world for when they enter the real world. So we're excited about that. That's gonna be February 13th. And we have previously invited, and we are still inviting someone from the board to attend the conference and speak. Probably a short lunch session, 15 minutes. So that's what we've got. Any questions for me? Smyrna. Yeah, Smyrna Town Center. So, great. I appreciate your attention. Thank you. And I'll leave this microphone on.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. And thank you for bringing up the symposium you have there. I will reach out to the board members here shortly, probably a couple weeks or so, get a head count, sort of firm up some of the topics in consultation with Ms. Herron, and sort of like the end result and the expectation there and time allotment. So it doesn't sound like we'll have a lot of time, which is fine. And there's Ms. Herron. Yes, go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, I'm back, sorry. I think we do have an engineering management session that's available if somebody's interested in filling that hour. So throwing that out there.
All right, thank you. I'll be in touch with you then on that front, and then we'll firm up some of the more details and opportunities, and then from there launch into what those topics will be. Maybe there was some discussion about potentially ethics, but that would probably primarily dependent upon whether or not we would have a disciplinary action attorney available to us at this time, which, as you know, we're in an interim space with having Scott's replacement soon to arrive. So we'll figure it out, and we'll get kind of connect with one another. But more to come. So Ms. Herron, I'll be reaching out to you, of course, and then the board as well, and then we'll make sure that works.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see what else we've got then. Looks like Miss Ashley Cates.
I don't think she's on, Glenn.
Okay.
She's not
Thank
in the
you, Brian.
audience today.
All right, appreciate that. Thanks, Brian. All right, Hannah Fitch or Claudia Lofton, or representative from those organizations.
Yes, hello. My name is Allie Bierman. I'm the current chapter president for IIDA Tennessee, the International Interior Design Association. I'll be speaking on behalf of IIDA and ASID for Hannah. Today we have quite the laundry list of activities that we've been participating in. The holiday season is quite busy for us, so hang in there with me. So I'll start with ASID announcements and updates. Chattanooga had a monthly meeting at the Construction Care Center on November 7th, and they featured a health, safety, welfare CEU called Make Yourself at Home, and that was for designing residential restrooms for living in place, so that's senior living. ASID Nashville District had a tree decorating party for the Helping Hands that benefits Centennial Children's Hospital and the Ronald McDonald House. That was November 12th at Ann Sachs. They decorated 5 trees this year, including a tree decorated by their ASID student members. The display of the event of all of the trees was held this week, actually, on December 2nd at Myers Flooring. They held their monthly meeting and Health, Safety, Welfare CEU on the benefits of architectural powder coating at Studio Val with Sierra Pacific on November 20th. They are hosting their annual holiday party December 9th at RW Supply and Design from 5 to 7:30. The Chattanooga holiday party and monthly meeting is tomorrow, December 5th. From 11:30 to 1, and will feature a CEU called Reframing Sustainability with Sesco Lighting. Next monthly meeting is January 15th, sponsored by ProCare, and it will include a textile protection CEU. The February monthly meeting will be sponsored by Sherwin-Williams, and there'll be a fun member event centered around color trends that were just announced from 4 to 5:30. And then they are currently in their sponsorship season, and they are well underway for preparation for the new year. So they have a lot more exciting events to come. And then I'll move on to IIDA updates. On October 21st, East Tennessee, our city center, hosted KnoxCon, which is a huge design event showcasing the latest innovations from the design conference NeoCon that is hosted in Chicago. There's a few hundred attendees there. For Halloween, East Tennessee and Chattanooga hosted a pumpkin carving contest sponsored by Shaw Flooring. October 29th, we had a virtual CEU about building sustainable, resilient spaces. They help designers explore the future of workplace design, where adaptability and innovation intersect. On November 13th, Nashville City Center hosted Strike Up Design, a community bowling event that brought together local designers at the East Side Bowl. On November 19th, East Tennessee hosted Mugshots and Martinis, which was a professional headshot event benefiting all of the designers in that community with an opportunity to network as well. On October 17th and November 18th, professionals lent their expertise over lunch to help shape the next generation of designers. Our students during speed mentoring events, which we host several times a year. So they give direct feedback on portfolios and resumes as they prepare for the new career day season happening in the spring. Future things coming up for IDA, we'll be hosting Rise and Refine, our annual professional development summit. It's going to be hosted at the First Art Museum this year. So we'll have a keynote speaker and a lot of panelists to discuss. Actually, the topic is storytelling and how to sell your design story and connect with it on a personal level as well. And we'll be focusing on presentation skills. We'll have another speed mentoring event January 29th at University of Tennessee in Knoxville. February 7th, some board members will attend a conference in Chicago with IIDA leadership to talk about insights and updates that other states are seeing. February 10th, we'll have another speed mentoring event at MTSU as well as University of Tennessee Chattanooga. And then on the 21st of February, our entire board will have a retreat to plan the rest of the year, as well as looking forward to 2027, which is hard to believe. The things that ASAD and IIDA have been doing together, we have two things of note. We co-hosted the second annual Better Together event on October 14th. So we brought together architects, engineers, designers, and industry reps, as well as their friends and family, to network and learn about interior design's role within the built environment, and then just educate people on different advocacy updates that we're seeing around the country. And then the new NCIDQ blueprints, which is our licensing exam, they will be restructured at the beginning of this spring season. So applications are now open until January 31st, and testing season will be in April. So yeah, thank you so much. I know that was a lot, but we have a lot going on. So any questions?
I just want to know if you ever take time to eat or sleep.
No, I do not. We have 20 members on the IDA board, and I'm sure ASAD has an equal amount. So no, we do not sleep, and we do not get paid. So yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for the report.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate all the activities and keeping interior design at the forefront of everyone's mind.
Yes, we appreciate
Thanks.
it too. Thanks.
And Ms. Berryman, if you wouldn't mind, just go ahead and sign in the sheet so we get your name spelled right on the minutes. And welcome. We're glad that you're going to be giving some updates to the board, and congratulations on being or fulfilling this important role there at your organization as an officer.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm already signed in.
Thank you. All right, great. All right, so looks like we are good for the director's report then. We're going to start with the budget. Let me get that myself open. Okay. There was as we're closing out last fiscal year, there was some things that sort of carried over and are showing up that closeout period, sort of coming over into some of these other columns. So instead of me trying to go through them all and then try to direct you while you're trying to keep up, I figured I'd just go ahead and highlight that. So the ones that I'm going to point out and discuss. And so if you have that iPad in front of you, I'm going to hit the high points. And if you have any questions, of course, I'll be happy to field any of those. This isn't going to be actionable, as you know, just informational purposes only. So we've already covered the months through June and wrapping up fiscal year 25, as you know. We have since moved into fiscal 26, which is what you have in front of you now, and we'll be focusing primarily on the last 3 months of record. What you have there is July through September. The charges are follow. You'll see all those highlighted, so I'm going to go just hit those. So that 23,418 charge, you'll see that under technology under August. Those charges were for July and August are combined, or the combined period and period two, basically two closeout periods from the last fiscal. The annual Zendesk charges are in this period as well. So Zendesk, what is that? That's our accounts that we use through the boards, where what gives us access to sort of frontline call center, but then we also have full access, and those are accounts that we have to pay. We pay for, and then that renewal period was during that as well. So those annual charges are reflected in that, along with the period closeouts. So that's what you see there. 21,700. So we're gonna go down and hit that also in August under other. This includes travel, postal charges, credit card charges, and membership dues. And so we had some membership dues for InCarb for that are showing up there as well. Go down one more, still in August, technology under admin cost backs, the 7,500 there. That's a combined period of two. They're basically just above that 23 charge. The admin cost backs is just an extension of that. So same sort of areas, but just in under admin cost backs itemized there. Basically, our share of those cost backs through to our program. Above, when the period closeout charges, those are unique and solely ours. Below are shared expenses in those same categories, but then apportioned to us based on the size of our program. And then if we would, we'll slide over to the 9,500 there under technology under September. There were several STS charges there, IT charges. STS is basically the IT house under finance administration. And so that's anytime we're tinkering with our applications online, or any support that we need for the program, that happens right there. And then the 9,000 right below that, we have some more membership dues, this time for Southern Conference in CARB. We also have some more travel there, credit card fees as well, and then court reporter services. Anytime we do a rulemaking hearing or anything like that, if you recall, we had one of those recently. That's where that's coming from. So then we move over to the 3,000, also in September. Going to close that one out. We got two more things that I've highlighted there under technology. The 3,900, those are administrative STS charges. And so those are our portion of that, those division charges that are unique to our program, our portion of that shared. And then you go down to 5,000 under admin cost backs, also in September. And those are our annual division of accounts, which is our statewide accounting services. And then you've got Central Procurement Office charges there, Edison, and DOHR billing. So basically support services that support our department, that's their billing for the year and close out. And then as you can see, we've got a net surplus of 55,878 added to this year, and we're only in the first quarter. So we're doing fine. I didn't, other than those things that I noted that I think required an explanation. I didn't see anything else that just jumped out at me and sort of screamed for my attention, but everything else seems to be trending according to the usual pattern. Did you have any
Glenn,
questions,
quick
concerns?
question. Some of those aren't repetitive. They're once per year. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's right. Closeout period. When you've got anytime. Of course, most of you are aware you have your own fiscal years and your businesses, firms, whatever. You're closing the books out, and so there's a lag, and then that shows up sometimes and rolls over either in a closeout period or in the next fiscal year. And so those are one-time charges. So we should sort of kind of level off, is what you're saying. We're climbing there and then level off and smooth sailing, or should be. I don't have anything that I've seen that's coming down the pike, or at least right now. All right, any other comments or questions? And of course, if you have anything later, like I've said before, that just sort of a pressing question or something you wanted more clarification on, please feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to provide that information to you at that time. So if we may, I think we're ready for the Comity application review. You should have that in front of you. That would be item number 4. And there's not a whole lot there's only one section that I would like to recommend adding. It's under number 3 at the very bottom, and this is what it reads with the new section added if the board so chooses to do that. It says the executive director is also authorized to review reapplications submitted by individuals previously registered in Tennessee if reapplications are model law or within 5 years of date of expiration, and provided that the continuing education records submitted meet the criteria for approval by board staff as outlined in the board's continuing education procedure. So what we're doing there is adding model law, because if an initial licensure, as you can see under basically, one right there, architects and engineers, that well, in this case engineers primarily, but if you've got model law and you're not looking at that application, then a reapplication seems sort of a little bit extemporaneous. It seems a little bit more attention that's required, because if they've already been licensed and they meet model law, then at that point they've met those requirements once before and were approved by the board, and now they're coming to us model law again, and there's no disciplinary action. It just seems sort of an oversight on our part that we need to include them as part of those reapplications.
So Glenn, I just have a question about that term model law. So when we refer to it here, are we talking about Tennessee law, or are we talking about, like NCES has a model law, which is different from our state law? So what are we
Right.
referring to there?
Yeah, we're talking about basically B. They've met those criteria, and there's no felony convictions. Like if they're coming to us, and you can of course tweak that. If you don't like the word model law, you could say if reapplications meet 1B or 1A, if the architects wanted to join, meet 1A and 1B, then or within 5 years of data, and within 5 years of date of expiration, because that would be an and then, because you've already covered that.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it should say if they reapplications are consistent with the state statutes and rules.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you could, that's probably be, I think that's a better option. So I would submit that would be a great way to, or substitution for what you see before you. And so that language, and within 5 years of date of expiration, because you guys still wanted to see it if they were outside of that.
Yeah. Yep, that sounds good to me.
Okay, well, if you want to state that in the form of a motion, and then if we get a second, we can have that discussion. And then if Mr. Waxter is amenable to that, then have that vote. But just what language would you like to see in there? And then we could just make that a motion.
Okay, so make a motion that we accept this as proposed, with the change to paragraph 3, where it says reapplications are model law or within 5 years, to change that to say are consistent with state statutes and rules and are within 5 years of expiration.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Dr. Ashrath. Do we have any other discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you for that clarification. That's very helpful. Sometimes you try to close a loophole or to make things more efficient, then you open up, one or two down the stream. So thank you for catching that and proposing that, and thank the board for your indulgence in that regard. We bumped into that. Those are so low volume anyway, but if there's some way that we can be consistent with ourselves, then it just makes sense to address that when we bump into it. So thank you for that. All right. Looks like then we are ready for grant guidelines. And so, all right, if you should be looking at that, that'll be number 5. Now, the question I was posing to you on this one is, shouldn't grant guidelines include ETA schools? One, because we already have a pathway, technically pathway number 4, but also one of our schools for which receives these grants is MTSU, and theirs is an engineering technology school. So since we already have a pathway 4 and MTSU is already receiving funds, it just makes sense that we go ahead and update this to reflect that. So that was my proposal. Right where it says eligible programs, I would put, EAC and ETAC ABET programs, and then somewhere in there, and that probably right there where it says University of Tennessee, or excuse me, Board of Regents system, right there I would put MTSU.
Hey, Glenn, I thought there were other E ETAC accredited, in East Tennessee State.
ETSU needs to be on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, East
that's
Tennessee
right.
State
Thank
is
you.
also.
Thank you. Yep. And so we need to get them in there too.
And there may be, I thought there were 3 in the state. I'm not recalling who the other one is, though.
Well,
University of Memphis has one.
Memphis?
University of Memphis has
ETSU,
a-
Memphis, Murfreesboro. Is there one more?
Yeah, Southwest Tennessee has a technology program, but I don't know if it's ABET accredited or not.
It's 2 years program.
Glenn, can you check on that? Before we change that, let's check on it and verify who all the ETAC accredited universities are. And then we'll make the modification accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was gonna make a comment. Glenn, on the MTSU, the mechatronic program is ABET accredited because I was part of the group that actually helped them through that several years back, about 10 years ago. So I think it's very credible to give it to them, to qualify them to apply for the grant. Thank you.
Yeah, I tell you what, if the board is amenable to it, and then I'll present it to you for any further. I would like to. One of the things is that these contracts will go out in February. So I'd like for for any of our guidelines, although outdated, to be updated prior to that, so that way it's consistent, and then those can be a part of that package. Could we put under eligible programs EAC and ETAC ABET programs, and then the board just allow that where they're a Tennessee system and fall under the Board of Regents, University of Tennessee system, or private institutions within Tennessee, that those that I discover, I can just add to this list, and then I'll present that to you in February. Would that be amenable to the board?
Yes, it would be. So moved.
All right, thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
A second to that.
Second by Philip Lim. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you, folks. I appreciate that. We'll get that squared away then, and that should reflect, and then I'll present that to you at just for your informational purposes during the director's report in February. All right, looks like then we have conference travel. There's no action here. We already approved conference travel at the last meeting, as you recall. Really, this is just for your edification and sort of to roll out how that process will work in the future. We tried to, instead of trying to piecemeal it throughout the year and then miss something and end up with a gap or a crack and something get missed, it seemed prudent to just go ahead and present what you see before you here every October. When we're selecting our slate of officers for the next year, then we'll just submit this as well. And the reason why I want to submit this is so we can help you be proactive, because we have to submit these pre-authorizations well in advance for travel. And this gets us an opportunity on the record to say, hey, this is what we're tracking. If it's not on this list, we don't know about it. So please let us know. It's one of those type of things. And this, of course, includes conference travel, your outreach stuff where you're not paying registration fees and that stuff that's in the state. That's regular board business. That wouldn't apply here. But we're primarily looking at conference travel where we're going to be, potentially driving out of state and where you have registration fees, because that's a whole nother bag, and we have to work on that well in advance. So these are the things we're tracking. These are the things we already noted in October, but going forward as a matter of practice and habit, we'll just in October, I'll present this list again, and then you can let us know that, hey, like a good example is ASLA there. They're listed, not ASLA, but CLARB, they're listed in September. Well, Blair and I were just talking yesterday that's in August. So that's a great opportunity for us to mark that. And then Alex, when she's building or stitching together those pre-authorizations, we can anticipate that and have that well in advance. So that way those registration fees can get paid on your behalf, and then we can track that and make sure everything's in order. That's all I got there. Let's see. The next item is CIDQ annual meeting update. Melanie, did you want to jump out there and offer anything to the board and or Frank?
I can do that. I'll start and you all chime in as you want to report. Your results of your visit there. So the CIDQ annual meeting was held November 7th through the 8th in Denver, Colorado. I was in attendance there as a CIDQ director. Frank Wagster attended on behalf of Tennessee and represented Tennessee. And Glenn, you attended as the executive director and representative for Tennessee as well. CIDQ has established an executive director component. They've had a committee, and they're encouraging attendance by all of the executive directors across the country that have legislation or some type of registration for interior designers in their state. So we were well represented, and so it was a very good meeting. The weather was unbelievable. It was unseasonably warm, but it was beautiful. Denver was beautiful. We had a keynote speaker that was also a CEU. It was Kay Sargent, and she presented her research and a new book that she had published on designing neuro-inclusive workplaces. And that is, it was very interesting. It was how to include conversations with employees that you possibly have who are autistic, who have ADHD, Asperger's, Tourette syndrome, how to recognize those types of situations and provide a pleasant and usable and collaborative workplace for those types of individuals. There were numerous legislative updates, and probably the most active or most recognized activity was in Arizona. And I probably should put together some type of report on the legislative updates across the country with interior design regarding registration, Practice Act stamping, and so forth. I-Corps, there was an update on I-Corps, and they will be presenting their report in just after the first of the year. I believe it's February. And so we're all looking forward to that report. But it was a very amicable presentation. It seemed to be where all of the disciplines were interested in getting along and recognizing the overlaps and including everyone at the table at design projects. So it was really a very, very good meeting. It was calm. It wasn't too, there weren't too many hot topics, and so it was very good. So thank you both for attending. It was very good for you all to be there.
Yeah, I enjoyed the meeting and enjoyed the Denver weather also.
Yeah.
But, the started to say seminar, but the woman that spoke on neuro inclusion, that was really interesting. It'd be good for I think the AIA or the NCARB to have her at some of their meetings. She worked for HOK, if I remember right. And it's really interesting that something you design for us may be totally terrible for someone else because of their disabilities. I say disabilities, but you know what I'm talking about. So it was really interesting, kind of informative to hear what she had to say about that, her research on that. Anyway, thank you, Melanie. What's next?
Thank you both. I appreciate that. You guys, it was pretty packed, wasn't it? When we got there, one thing that I'll just insert, and then you guys covered it very well, so I don't need to rehash any of that. But they did talk at the roundtable from the different CEOs. They started with I-Corps, but of course you had NCARB CEO there, NCWS CEO was there, CLARB, and of course CIDQ. And then they, not to open up this discussion, but this is something that all the design professions are dealing with. And I think the only time the discussion got a little bit more spirited, but was when they were discussing how to thwart seal fraud. And of course, there's a lot of opinions about that. And one of the things that Mr. Armstrong mentioned is that, he said that the seal is really an outdated practice, and that's why it's so easy to steal, especially with AI and public availability of license info, with most jurisdictions providing some public portal for license verification. And so since technology is opening up the potential for fraud, it'll probably be a technological solution to close that door. And so there are some people working on that, and that's going to be something that probably get adopted by. It looks like Ohio is taking the lead with that right now, working with a vendor. And so just so everyone at this board knows, we are tracking that. It's on my radar, and I'll be in touch with that MBE here shortly to see where that's going. And I'll report back to you. But right now, it's a problem that everyone shares. So, but there's more work to be done. All right, that's anyone else on that one? If not, can we move, if you're okay, Chair, may we move to the legal portion of the agenda?
Let's do that.
All right, thank you, sir. Looks like we have the legal case report. As you guys know, Mr. Huddleston is no longer with the department. He did a lot of great work for us, and we wish him the very best, and look forward to maintaining contact and touch with him. But in his stead, our chief counsel, Miss Martin, and Ariel Carter, they've helped us out before, and we'll be pitching in the interim. So, Miss Martin.
Actually, Ariel's going to handle the legal report. So.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see Ariel there. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're stuck with me for a little bit longer, so sorry.
We're happy to.
There are 7 items on the legal report. The first one is case number 2025-013011. And just I'm going to give a summary really quickly. It's an anonymous complaint was filed against the respondent for unlicensed activity. They alleged that on the website, the respondent was listed as an architectural designer. And there was also an article that implied that the respondent was a licensed architect, but there was nothing in the database. The respondent denied these allegations and stated that they have never advertised as a licensed architect, and the title architectural designer was provided by the company. I reviewed the website for the company, the article, and even the respondent school's information to kind of confirm what was happening, and it seems like they made a pretty clear distinction between architectural designer and architect. The article put emphasis on the design that the respondent did. The school doesn't even offer an architect program, and the school and the website, the company website, has a very clear distinction for an architect that is licensed with the state. And so the recommendation was to close this case.
You've heard the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Second case is 2025-010301. And this case was administratively opened after the respondent submitted an application asking if they worked in the state of Tennessee while their license was expired, and they answered yes. This respondent's license was expired from July 1st, 2023 to May 20th, 2025. While they were unlicensed, they worked on 35 projects. And their role was essentially design engineer for either steel-to-steel connections or steel stairs and rails. After it was reviewed and due to the number of jobs that they worked on while unlicensed, it was recommended that they be assessed $150 per project that they worked on, for a total of $5,250, and have the respondent take and pass the laws and rules exam.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Now that
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, now that the motion's on the table, I'd like to ask why we're not Typically, we have $500 per sheet. Why is
Yeah.
this so low? I mean, is it just because it's a lot and
Basically, yeah.
we want to be nice to them, or?
That was the thought
We wanna be
process
nice.
behind it,
No,
like, since it was like 35 projects.
My interpretation of looking at the cases where that, it was a delegated engineer and not an engineer of record of large projects. These were small stair detailing, deferred. So an engineer of record delegated design items that a delegated engineer picked up. I guess the rationale was the judgment is these were lots of smaller projects. So we adjusted the fine to meet that.
But he sealed the drawings, right?
What's that?
He sealed the drawings,
Yes,
and
the delegated engineer sealed the delegated work for the engineer record.
it's like, what I can relate to that is, let's say the engineer delegated stair design, and then the delegated engineer did the design for the stair.
Exactly.
That, to me, is a health, safety, and welfare.
Yeah, and that was noted. I guess the judgment was, the scale of events, these are much smaller projects. I mean, this is debatable. I'm a structural engineer myself, and if this were large projects and we use this same logic for an engineer of record, this would be chump change. But relative to what the scale of these projects are, I felt like this was adequate to the projects they were doing. This might be equivalent to 5 projects of an engineer of record that could work on in the same time frame. But
What kind of projects were there?
they appear to be delegated engineer projects like stair, connection details, steel, look like a steel detailer, steel connection.
Any other discussion? Oh, Glenn.
Hey, yeah, I didn't want to interrupt the flow there, but I wanted to serve Mr. Thompson. He wasn't able to be here, and so, but he did have some comments for 3 of the cases. He had one comment for this one. He also had one for number 3 and number 5. So, in service to him, since he's absent, I just wanted to make sure I got his comments on the record. The summary of his comments for this one was that he was in line with Frank there. It's for discussion. He was just saying the range was really the issue for him too as well. He was thinking something if we went 300 per each one, all the way up to 500, then the range, would be somewhere around 10,500 to 17,500 for the penalty. But of course, he understood that was, that would be up for discussion as you just did. So, but I wanted to get that in there just since he wasn't able to participate.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if it were the building footing and foundation design or the skeletal steel for the entire building, I would agree it would rise to the level of what we normally do. But these are small incidental components of a really low percentage overall of the design. And again, given the magnitude of the number, I applaud the guy for being honest and listing all 35, but I don't think they rise to the level of something that would, and yes, Frank, you are correct. I do think they are public health, safety, and welfare related issues, but not when you put them in the framework of the overall structure itself.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Yes, I just want to make sure that we're consistent so that in the future, and we can be consistent, that we have this to back up, to be ready for. So in this case, the justification is this is incidental type design, not the overall. But we just need to remember this and so that we can use it in the future. Because we're setting precedent.
Yes, a couple of the projects were rail extensions and things like that. I just didn't feel like they rose to the level of a full responsibility of an overall project. If we use this same logic for an engineer of record that designed buildings, they would just go on and pay it and be done with it. It wouldn't, the magnitude wouldn't hit them. So the reverse logic was what I was using on that. If we use the logic to penalize them for this, that's kind of going overboard too. So
Okay.
I wish there were a sliding scale logic that we could use, and appreciate that noted.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Eddie. Anyone else? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries.
The third case, actually, a couple cases are going to be kind of similar in fact pattern. So the third one is 2025-010451. And similarly, this case was administratively opened against the respondent after they submitted an application that said that they were working while their license was expired, and their license was expired from August 1st, 2023 to April 22nd, 2025. During that time, they worked on 8 projects. They kind of just provided like a list. Originally, this matter was reviewed by a board member. The issue mainly is that they work for the airport authority, and they said that their main things were just kind of supervision. But based on the information and the list of projects that they provided, it was recommended that they be assessed $500 per year that they were unlicensed, and they were presenting themselves as an engineer to the airport board authority without the valid registration. They had like a couple of public meetings where they had that as their title. And then the second one was to assess a civil penalty of $250 per project that they worked on in violation of Tennessee Code annotated 62-2105 for being unlicensed, and require them to take and pass the law and rules exam. So a total of like $3,000 for this respondent.
What kind of projects were there?
They didn't give like all of the details, but essentially, as the airport authority manager, they like oversaw like, I think they said like millions or billions of dollars of, or like of.
Yeah, these were major projects at an airport.
Of information.
Yeah, there were eight very significant projects at this airport. Yeah.
Good, given that, might we want to increase the 250
Yeah.
to 500?
Yeah, so that was one of the questions I wanted to put to the board. The person here was not in necessarily responsible charge of those projects. They were managing those projects as part of their duties at the airport authority. So they were not responsible for signing and sealing plans and that sort of thing. But they were taking on other managerial tasks that we would typically look at for an engineer to be doing, like scheduling, budgeting, those kinds of things. And so I certainly, would like to get input from the other members of the board as to how big that fine should be relative to that.
Hey.
And also, before we make the motion, I wanted to make one correction in the presentation there in the 4th paragraph, where it gives the rules and regulations quote there. It says 120-02-.10. It should be 120-01. But yeah, I would welcome input from the board as to thoughts on the amount of the fine. And as I said before, these were very significant projects at an airport.
Okay.
James, I got just one quick question. Did the individual that was managing the work, did he review the work of others, and did he request alterations to drawings as a result of that review?
It appeared that they did review the work of others. It was not clear as to whether or not they requested changes to that work. But I would You would expect that that would normally be the case.
Yeah, I probably would, particularly if that's his position.
I do work with them a lot, and I'm not sure what this position is, but it's typically like a manager type position, you know what I mean? So they are almost like a, you know, like a, I don't know, what, you know what I mean? They're not dealing with the projects in that manner at all. If I'm understanding how we typically are, they're just a management type position, but because of the position, they're required to, well, they're not, I don't even know if it's necessarily a requirement that they have their engineering license for it, because they're not directing design. I can't think of another good thing, like a campus planner or something, you know what I mean, where it's like they're not necessarily having to they're not doing any kind of stamps or anything for it. So I don't know if they would fall into this category because of that. They're not like reading drawings and saying, oh, you need to change that detail or whatever, you know what I mean? So I don't know. The way I understood this, and after working with them a lot.
Yeah, and
Just to be clear, who have you worked with?
I think it said this is the one that, am I trying to understand it right, was with the airport?
So you've worked with the airport, that's what, okay.
We have worked with, don't know if this is
The
Nashville's airport or
yeah.
another airport or whatever, but.
Okay, I was just, when you said worked with them, I was like,
Oh, you want to make sure it
do you know
wasn't.
the respondent?
Yeah.
But no, you're saying your experience is having worked with other airports? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, I
yeah.
just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I don't know the respondents. I mean, I don't, you know.
That's fine, thank
I haven't
you.
met I don't know if this is somebody I know. I may know him, I don't.
No, that's
you know what
fine,
I mean?
thank you.
There's a possibility I know him, but I don't, you know, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, when I was still working, I worked with several major airports as well, and people who were in these positions may not go through and do detailed review of the plans, but they did give direction as to the scope and intent of those plans, which to me is an engineering function. And typically the people that we worked with in those roles were engineers. There were some that were not, but typically they were. The other thing is that this person did represent themselves in the board meetings as a professional engineer on multiple occasions during the time that the license was expired.
Do we have a motion? Glenn, you have your hand raised.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just, for Rick's sake, I just want to, basically his comments were the same as the last case. And also, so you won't have to deal with my hand again. Number 5, it's the same there as well. Rick was asking for basically consideration of a $500 per violation. So on this one, and so fine adjustments on this one and number 5. To incorporate the 500 per violation. And then in addition on this one, he was saying like 1,000 per year instead of the 500. But obviously looks like, you know, his comments seem to be somewhat familiar or similar to what James already articulated. But just want to get that in there, and thank you very much.
Blair. I may be confusing things, but I wonder if there's any similarity to a construction company that hires an engineer. They allow their license to lapse, but they're still providing engineering type design or information or guidance. I'm thinking value engineering, which happens a lot in our industry, all of our industries. But I wonder what would be the differences in that?
In value engineering, I think they're making a recommendation for alternative designs or things like that, which, again, is the practice of engineering. Yes, it does.
I guess I'd just be curious, I'm sorry since we're jumping in, Eddie, but is it really just a managerial type position, or is it really like, you know, and I guess you looked at the case, I mean, they're really advising them on an engineering, or I just didn't want to, you know, somebody who's just a manager and they're, you know, managing the project, but they're not and they happen to be a professional engineer, do they, it's not like they're stamping drawings or whatever, so that's why I wanted to just make sure.
Yeah, so they were clear that they did not stamp drawings or do any engineering calculations, as they called them, during the time period of this. They are a manager in position, but I kind of want to be careful about the use of the word manager and what that might imply. To me, it's very similar to someone who's in a municipal government, who is, works in the city engineer's office, for instance. They may be a manager, but they are providing guidance to people that are submitting plans to them about what the codes require, what their specifications require, those sorts of things. So, true, the person who is sealing the plans is the person that's in responsible charge of those plans, but they are getting direction from these people, just like any other public works type project would be done. And so to me, it's a little bit different than it would be like for the contractor who has an engineer who's doing value engineering for them, because they're doing something that's internal to that company. This is something that is, it is internal to the airport, but it is affecting millions of people who travel through that airport. And so to me, it's a very much a public health, safety, and welfare issue.
I think another key point that you pointed out was that this person represented themselves as an engineer that was not currently registered. So they were directing and giving the public impression that they were. And so, like, I know several construction companies that have licensed engineers as project managers, and the same could be said about them if they could be directing a design build team the same way, but it means something different when you're not licensed and something different when you are and you represent that. I think that was a key point.
So I have a question. So in the project management world, you guys might be familiar with the RACI matrix, those that are responsible, accountable, consulted, or informed. I was trying to, based on your guys' conversation, put that guy in one of those buckets. And I guess one of the questions I would ask is, like, if there was an issue with this project and there was a lawsuit, would he be held responsible for it? Like, was he more of a consultant? And would that, like, who else would be responsible in the project? Would everybody who touched the project be responsible for it? If he wasn't actually stamping the designs, so you see, I'm trying to understand his actual responsibility versus accountability versus consulting role in this case, since he wasn't actually the principal. That makes sense?
Yeah, so I think, to me, there's a couple of things here. First of all, if there were to be a lawsuit, having experienced that, they're going to get sued along with the agency that they work for. They'll get sued as an individual, and the agency will get sued as well, along with everybody else who touched the project. And then it'll be left up to a mediator or a judge to sort out who gets fined and all that kind of stuff. And it's a real mess when that happens. I think the difference here with this particular one is that this person is the person that is in charge of a major program at an airport that includes multiple major projects. Their boss is a PE. They are a PE. Pretty much all the other people on staff around them are PEs. And I'm assuming that is by design and not by accident that occurred. So obviously there is a need for PEs in that position. This person was a PE, represented themselves to their board and to the public as a PE, as is shown in evidence from the presentations that were made at the board during this time period. So I would, in my experience working with people in those positions, they are making decisions and giving direction that are engineering activities in most cases.
All right, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to raise the $250 fine to 500.
Okay, to follow the recommendation, but raise it to 500, okay. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next case is 2024-068391. This case was also administratively opened against the respondent after they submitted a re-application. They asked if they worked in Tennessee while the license was expired, and they answered yes. This respondent's license was expired from April 1st, 2024 to December 30th, 2024. During that time, they worked on 2 projects. The first was converting a natural grass football field and natural grass practice soccer field to artificial turf. The second one was a larger redevelopment of an existing park complex of baseball and softball fields. This matter was reviewed and it was recommended that the respondent be assessed $500 per project that they worked on for a total of $1,000 civil penalty, and for the respondent to take and pass the laws and rules exam.
Move to accept the recommendation.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Number 5 is 2025-000-0691. And this case was administratively opened after the respondent submitted an application stating that they worked in Tennessee while their license was expired. This license was expired from August 29th, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. During that time, they worked on 2 projects, and it was recommended that they be assessed a civil penalty of $500 total for the 2 projects that they worked on. The first one was for collecting energy measurements for the SPT hammer and geotechnical drill and providing written summary of those results. And the second one was for collecting energy measurements for monitoring pressure and displacement measurements for 1 compression, tension, 1 lateral static load test, and providing a summary for that as well.
Okay. Eddie, you got any comments?
Yeah, just, and Dr. Ash may be able to provide some more insight on this. I think it would have been a warning if the respondent hadn't included language on there where he provided a summary of the results. That was a key thing for me, kind of like you're signing off and giving an opinion of the results. If he had just been collecting information, I think it would have just been a warning. But just interested in your all's thoughts on that.
And for regarding the SPT.
Dr. Ash, can you press your, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, what I was saying that for the project about the 1 SPT hammer calibration, it's not really a design work, so I concur with the 250 for this one. Standard penetration test.
Do we have a motion?
Move to accept the recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next one is a represent. It is case number 2024-067501. This case was previously presented to the board. It was an administratively opened complaint after a routine audit was conducted, and the respondent failed to comply with the requirement to provide proof of their continued education for the requested audit period. The previous counsel had spoken with the respondent regarding the consent order, and they provided, I guess, a suggested resolution. They said they never performed the work in Tennessee, but they were willing to pay $1,000 civil penalty and place their license in inactive status instead of having to fulfill other requirements. So based off that, the new requirement was to assess a $500 civil penalty for failing to comply with the requirements of the audit, assess a $500 civil penalty, assess another $500 civil penalty, and then require the respondent to change their license from active to retire within 10 days of signing the consent order, and if they fail to reply, just to reinstate the initial recommendation.
You've heard the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve recommendation?
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay.
Question, Glenn, the next time when he's gonna go inactive, the next time when he come back active, he will have to complete his continuing education, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, I'll just be sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other? If not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
The last case is also represent. It is case number 2023-025-121. This case has been represented, I believe, twice to the board. For a brief summary of the facts, this was an issue of unlicensed activity. The complaint alleged that the respondent was advertising in-house engineering on their website and professional profiles. And this was the case that was intended to have for a hearing. And when I was in talks with the respondent's attorney, they provided a proposed resolution for it. It got kind of complicated, and I try to keep it as clear as possible, but I know it got really complicated when I wrote it. And so I'm happy to answer whatever questions you guys have regarding the back and forth and the new information. But essentially, the attorney kind of presented new information that this unlicensed firm shares an address with a registered firm. However, the names don't match up exactly on the registration. I did check the Secretary of State's website, CORE, and the actual websites of each engineering firm that was listed. And it kind of just seems like they are mixing and matching names. So it's like John Smith, and then another time it's Jonathan Smith, another time it's like Jonathan Jake Smith. And it kind of like just, they mix it up a lot. So it makes it very complicated as far as like.
But it does appear to be the same person.
It seems like,
Yeah.
I believe their argument would be that this is one person, or like they're just one entity. It just made it a little confusing because technically on CORE, the name that is registered for the unlicensed firm is not matching. However, I believe a proper violation, if that is what the board decides to do, would be that they just failed to fill out the form correctly, and for the assessment of $1,000 civil penalty for that. Just since the addresses do match, it's just the names for the registration, the registrant on everything just got really complicated and confusing.
So I've got a question. I understand there's two firms there with sharing the same address, and this one guy who's registered is working and providing oversight there. But we still have one of those firms is advertising that they do engineering services when they don't actually, when they're not a registered engineering firm and they don't actually have engineer on staff. They're partnering with another firm that actually has engineers on staff. So they still not in violation, and should they be required
Actually,
to remove that
Jake,
information from their website?
The same guy owns both. He has both firms. And like Ariel was saying, one firm may be listed as John Smith, and the other firm lists him as Jonathan A. or John A. Smith or Jonathan A. Smith. It's the same guy. He owns.
Right.
He's at both.
Right.
Originally, and again, I sort of helped Ariel with this and reviewed the case, and when the attorney came back and provided the information associated with the actual ownership of the firm and the fact that the owner was, of both, was a licensed professional, it changed the process. The only difference was one of those did not complete a disclosure form. Therefore, they they did advertise that they provided engineering services, but they failed to provide or failed to acquire the necessary disclosure form. I hope that helped. Ariel did a good job with a very complex thing. But hopefully that adds some clarification to that.
It did, thanks.
Do we have a recommendation?
Make a recommendation if I actually reviewed it.
Recommend that we approve the recommendation.
Second.
What's the actual recommendation?
Yeah, that's
That they pay $1,000 fine and fill out the appropriate and submit the firm disclosure form. Yeah.
For real quick, just for sake of just to keep it as clean as we possibly can, I think if someone could make the motion since Alton reviewed, although it sounds like the board is leaning towards accepting that recommendation, but since he would have potentially bump into knowledge and of the actual, I guess, the identity of the individual, it'd be difficult to not for him to submit the actual motion. But yes, his input was instrumental in helping this move along, and thank you, Ariel, for reaching out and for helping her as well, because it's very technical and very convoluted. There was a lot of pieces to trail and trace, and to sort of separate all that out coming in on the backside of it too, like Ariel was impressive and speaks to her acumen and her skill in doing that. And that was on display through the way she was summarizing the legal report already and pitching in. So I appreciate that. But for sake of just to keep it as we don't, since we've gone through what we have already, and looks like we're going to be sidestepping a formal, if we can get another motion, that would be helpful.
I move that we authorize a civil penalty of $1,000 and instruct the person to register the proper forms with the department. The business. Yeah, the business to register the proper forms.
Would you like to put a time frame on it, like within a certain amount of time?
30 days.
30 days.
Okay. And just for clarity, the statute that I had was Tennessee Code annotated 62 to 601 subsection B for the requirement for the disclosure form.
Second the motion.
all right. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I have a question.
Have a
So,
question.
Ariel, does this mean there will no longer be that hearing, right?
Correct. Not on this one anyway.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for your hard work on that very complex case and and the rest of the cases as well. And also appreciate each member's thoughtfulness as they go through this. That's always exhibited by the discussion. So you never fail to disappoint. And I appreciate the hard work that you put in and which really shows a commitment to your fiduciary charge as well and to health, safety, welfare. Did legal have any other anything that they'd like to bring for the legal case report?
Nothing for the legal report.
Thank you, Ariel, for your work. I really appreciate it. All right, then. Looks like we've got open meetings and public records requests. Ms. Martin?
Glenn?
Yes, ma'am.
I
if we can't, if we need to move it to
We need
February,
to
we
move
can do
this
that as
to the
well.
next meeting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm blanking on what I was supposed to say about this, and I
No.
apologize, everyone.
You're good. You're covering a lot of desks. And that was a possibility.
Uh-huh.
One that it was already on the agenda and approved, but we also know too that with the change in staffing too, that this potentially would have been moved. So we can do that if the
Yeah.
board would just allow for that, we'll move this to February.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. All
Do
right.
we need a motion to move it off?
Yes, let's do that since we
So
approved the
moved.
agenda. Thank you.
Second.
All right.
We have a motion and a second to move open meetings and public records to the next meeting of the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, it's a good thing y'all did that because otherwise I'd be giving it that you don't want that. Trust me, you want that from Miss Martin, not me. Or whoever. Thank y'all for your flexibility there. Looks like committee reports then. We guess we'll start with Mr. Collins.
Yeah, the engineer committee met this morning, reviewed a fresh start application and agreed that application should go ahead and proceed. And we had some other discussion about other items, but that was the only action we took.
All right, thank you, Mr. Collins. I appreciate that. That was a good discussion. And of course, all of this will be available on the record for anybody that's watching this to go back and review that as well. Thank you for that. Mr. Parker.
Thank you. The Landscape Architecture Committee met this morning, and we discussed two items. First, the comparison of Tennessee's licensure requirements for landscape architects versus CLARB's recommended licensure requirements. And we're going to do a little more homework. I will put together a list of what the differences are if we were to change a few things in Tennessee's requirements, what that means. Does that mean that we have to go legislative or not, and so forth? But we'll come back and review that in February of 2026. The second item was a hearty discussion about the Chattanooga zoning amendment that's taking place regarding landscape design. And interesting discussion. It's something that the A&E board should pay attention to and keep their eye on, but there's nothing for us to do at this time.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right. Looks like new business.
Philip.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thanks for the time. And Glenn, in noticing that recent legal cases, we have a lot of unlicensed people. Not because I'd like to assume they're not doing it at will, but just maybe forgetful. Do we as a board have the due diligence to maybe do outreach to these people, or to just our register and say, hey, remind them that, hey, guys, you make sure your license is proper. If you have a form, engineering form, make sure you have a disclosure proper. It seems to remember that sometimes we do an outreach program, so I'm just gonna throw that question out there for the board to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. We appreciate that. And we had some discussions about that just for sake of context. Probably, I don't know, a little about, I'd say a year or so ago. But of course, it's time flies, so it might be longer. But one of the things that we did change to address that was our notices. We're not required by statute, but as a courtesy, we do send out notices. We used to send letters. We quit doing that because people typically, they throw those letters in the round file, at the house. And because you see if it doesn't jump out at you, it kind of can hide with all the other junk mail. And so we started to send postcards, which are a little smaller, hardier. They're green, and modeled really after accountancy. And so that's going out now, and hoping that that'll jump out at folks and hey, and reminds them you got 2 months to, your registration's open. And so we do that. And then we also we've got a setting where if they lapse into expiration within, I think 30 days, then they get an automated email as well. So there's a couple mechanisms, more than I get for, my tags. my wheel tax, you know, here in Wilson County. So we're doing one better than most, and really trying to do the best we can to reach out. And obviously, we're somewhat limited by technology. Should Core ever expand to include text messages, then we would incorporate that as well. That was something that Mr. Jett brought up, and we just don't have the capacity yet. But something that I always keep my ears peeled. So, but we're always whatever that's available to us, we'll certainly take advantage of it.
Thank you, Glenn. It's just very helpful because one of the things that I think is we like to regulate the profession, and at the same time, we also want to educate the profession too.
Yes, sir.
And I think that plays a better place for us. Thank you.
Glenn, yeah, one thing that's a great point too, Philip. One of the things, you know, if we get invited to speak to the Tennessee Engineering Conference this next September, we may want to put that item about firms completing the disclosure form on the agenda.
Oh, that's certainly a good one. I do think our, you know, now of course I'll work this out with Ms. Herron, but in our outreach for in February, I'm thinking abbreviated sort of update, just really high, you know, high level. We won't get into the philosophical nature of the composition of the board, but just sort of those housekeeping stuff, and then more of an interactive roundtable, you know, because oftentimes we think we know. I mean, we hit the stuff that we know are problematic as a service to our folks that are our licensees out there. But then there's also sometimes, instead of getting into the weeds on some of the maybe the industry level stuff, you know, just the field questions from them, knowing that it seems like once that gets going, the Q&A seems to be pretty hardy. So we might go that route, but we'll kind of work that out. But that's a great point. That would be something to definitely highlight.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We have had this discussion in the past, and it has been tabled, and I would like to bring it back up for discussion about a newsletter. You know, it's not something that we need to do on a monthly basis or quarterly, but I think if we did something on an annual basis where we could put information like this, that would be standing information, reminding registrants, licensees to renew their license in a timely manner, and also report some other things that, you know, what we've accomplished through the year. I know that people look forward to that newsletter. We haven't had one in quite some time, but I would like to see if it's a possibility to reinstate that.
We can put out another solicitation through contracts. We've done that before. We did a request for, not a request for a proposal, but just a solicitation. And then we just didn't have any takers. So that was where we kind of bumped into some problems there at the time. So yeah, we'll certainly, it doesn't mean that we wouldn't have that again. Sometimes you stick your toe in the water and it's not quite ready, and then you stick it in there again. You're like, okay, it's time to go swimming. And so maybe you know, we can certainly float that. I got to reach out to contracts anyway, because I need to ask them about reimbursements for professors taking the exam. So when I do that, when I drum up that email, we'll explore that again.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Glenn, I noticed Ashley Cates is here, and I know she got here late, but I think we ought to give her a chance to speak if she wants to.
Sure, of course. Ms. Cates?
Hello, got it. Hi, Glenn. Hello, members of the board. Ashley Cates with AIA Tennessee. Thank you all for having me. And my apologies, I was late. I was actually having coffee with Rick Archer. He is the new dean over at Amore College of Architecture and Design at Belmont. So it was a delightful coffee, but it did put me a little behind to see you all today. Just wanted to give you a brief update on the status of the legislative session coming up and what we're looking for. We have no bills that we're going to introduce through the organization, but we will be monitoring any bills regarding procurement or licensure or continuing education to make sure that licensure and profession is protected. Also, any emerging bills relative to the housing and development incentives, as well as historic preservation, to make sure that those issues, we're involved in conversation with those. We're also in collaboration with State Architect's Office, always with engineers and others on, any type of updates that we can do for state contracts and policies within the state as it relates to design and delivering high-quality public projects for our entities, our state entities. The board actually adopted, the AIA Tennessee board actually adopted a new strategic plan back in July, and so we're implementing it starting in January of 2026. It'll go for the next 3 years, wrapping up at the end of December 31st, 2028. And we're excited about it. We're focusing on pipeline and how we can get workforce into those colleges, what we can do as mentoring and outreaching for K through 12 education on architecture and the profession. So stay tuned for more of that. I may have some of our volunteers that are going to be leaders on these efforts join me to give a little more of an update and background, considering that they are licensed architects that will be leading that. As far as our professional development and continuing education, we're going to have our conference in Chattanooga this year, August 12th through the 14th, and we'll be providing, of course, 12 HSW hours, 18 learning units for our members there through various workshops and tours and a lot of fun interactions. So that's always an exciting time. We've also, we're going to develop a program committee to talk about the different programs, not providing what the local components provide at the local level, but like how can we kind of enhance those efforts at the state level. And so there's topics of conversation, with licensure, focus on EP. So I may get with Glenn and some of you all to talk about that, what NCARB's doing versus what the state, and just kind of having an introductory level for our associates that are pursuing licensure, that, that the board and the staff are here to help, and if you have any questions, you can always reach out to the staff. So that might be something on the horizon in 2026 that we will do. It'd just be an online kind of a webinar, hello introductory opportunity for those individuals. As far as any type of collaboration, as you're talking about outreach and education, we do our monthly newsletters to members, and then I also work with the local components and their executive directors. So if there's any type of continued communication that you all need for the organizations, and I would just say this probably on behalf of all the professional associations that come here, if you need us to send out any information to our membership to make sure like you're just constantly hitting them, just let us know. We're more than happy to put that in our newsletter or website or social media. So I'm happy to collaborate, Glenn, if you have anything like that you're seeing that we might need to educate our members on, reminding them, renew your licensure, get your CE credits in. As far as that, I think we're working on just getting ready for the new year, and our Down the Hill, our advocacy Down the Hill will either be March 30th or 31st, so you'll know more in February. So at that time, this concludes my report. Do you all have any questions? Or?
Actually, I've got one question. You said you were meeting with the Belmont or the Omar.
Yes. Yeah.
Omar group. Where are they on NAB approval for their program?
I believe we had that conversation. It's looking like it's going to be April. So that's really exciting. I think they graduated around 22 last year. That was their first graduating class. And so if you haven't met Rick Archer, you need to. He's really, it was really great coffee. And so I looked down, I was like, oh, I am late. So I think anticipated in April.
Okay.
And so I think there's some exciting things from that program, and that's just, one of 3 in our state. And so I'm happy to introduce you all to him and make that connection.
Well, then we need to include them in the grants that we put out each year. In April. Next year, I guess.
Are they? Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Ashley, if you have contact with them, which obviously you do, you may want to mention that to them, that if they become accredited, that they would be eligible to participate in the grant program that the board issues every year. And there's a participation, all the forms they have to fill out, there's a guideline. In fact, I think it was in our document today, that you can provide to them on how they do that. And if they need additional instruction, just pull Glenn off of his sick bed and ask him.
Hope you're feeling better, Glenn. That works. He started in August, so I think he's just still kind of like figuring out things as the new dean. So I'm more than happy to extend that information to him and copy Glenn on that and get that ball rolling for them.
Good, thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Happy holidays.
You too.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cates, appreciate you. And then for the referral, as always, Alton, I mean, you never fail to disappoint. Let's see, new business. We were still in new business. Did the board have any other new business?
Glenn, this is Frank. I've got something I want to bring up.
Yes, sir.
I've been reviewing our website, the A&E Board's website. And of course, we pulled the reference manual at the last meeting, or the request was made. And it will be revised. And can you tell me what process that will take to have that revised? Or is that something the board will be involved in, or is that something your staff, or how's that going to take place?
Yeah. Thank you, Frank. I'm glad we're talking about bylaws. It was one of those things when I first came into this role, like I guess a little over 3 years ago, I noticed, but you know, you sort of deal with you sort of triage and deal with where the fire is particularly hot or where your attention needs to be directed. And so, but it was something that I was always wanting to kind of get to when we had the opportunity. So to hear you bring it up is helpful. And I'm glad we're having this discussion. Quite honestly, bylaws are really more something for professional associations. I mean, obviously boards have them and commissions. You look at other jurisdictions, they have them, that's fine. But the standard practice typically across the division is rules and, you know, policies and statute. You know, they kind of, they talk and bylaws walk, you know, so bylaws aren't really a part of that portfolio and many of the other programs. So quite honestly, you know, instead of trying to maintenance those, something that's outdated and that you may not, that wouldn't even be authoritative, it would probably just be better to repeal it, because we don't, in essence, what I'm saying is you don't need it.
Okay. I think I still would like for us to review the bylaws. And I say that because maybe I'm not like everybody else, but I just went through them, and you may not even know we had any. But if everybody before the next meeting might take the time to review the bylaws and it's on the website.
Until then, would you like to do like the reference manual and just pull it from the in the spirit of that logic? We pulled the reference manual because they were going to be out of step with the new rules, but also because there was some outdated codes information that needed updated. Instead of, you know, risk running afoul of our practice or the intent, it would be better to remove potentially conflicting information until you're ready to represent that and have sort of a unified position. Would that be the will of the board to do likewise?
I think we could pull it, but I want everybody to be able to access it also.
Sure. Well, of course. Mm-hmm.
So maybe not pull it until after at least our next.
I can send it, or well, okay, that'd be fine. We could do that. We could say maybe just flag it on the website, something to the effect of currently under review.
Yeah, I mean, it has things in it like
Is it a big file?
No.
It can be emailed to everybody and then pulled out.
That was my concern, was to your point. I think we could probably flatten it and get it to you, but then at the same time too, I was little a little hesitant about that. I don't know how big it is and whether or not we can facilitate that transfer. I mean, we could do like, well, I could probably do it. I'll attempt it. That's what we'll do. Before we do anything with it, I'll attempt to see if I can send it to each of you. How about that? And then, and if I can't, then I'll let you know.
Okay. And the other part of that is there are several responses from the Attorney General's office to questions. There's maybe 20, 25 of them. A lot of those are out of date or incorrect. And I assume those would need to be reviewed by the Attorney General's office since they produced them.
There's records of those things, but you're right. Those have a sort of an expiration date. You know, it's like the milk in the back of the fridge. You know, you got to check those. There's the landscape changes, and those opinions or those reviews would only be pertinent to the facts given at the time. If the laws have changed, and we've gone through some we've gone through some new rules. We've gone through the statute with alternative pathways. And as those things continue to change, those things may no longer be relevant. And that goes without saying, I think, but at the same time too, it can be conflicting to your point. That is true.
Yeah, I would like for them to review those and eliminate the ones that aren't, pertinent anymore, and revise those that might be, because to me, it's concerning that somebody would access our website looking for information and get the wrong information. And that's what some of this is. And so I don't know who I'm dumping this on, but somebody needs to take it and run with it.
All right, I've got you down. So there's two parts. One, we'll look at those opinions, and then I'll get with legal and decide what we need to do with those. But then the other one too is the bylaws. So that I'm going to try to yank it, flatten it, send it probably via link. I've done that before with Adobe. We did that with the grants, and that seemed to work okay for big files. But if I start running into problems there, then I'll let you know. And in the meantime, I'll store that on our backup, and and then you guys can review that and determine if we even need it, and if we want to keep it, then what we need to carve and keep or elsewise.
Yeah, and the other thing that I at first mentioned was the reference manual, which has been pulled. I think it's anticipating the new new changes.
Yes, sir.
But who will revise that?
Well, we'll need that from the board, because you're the subject matter expert. So that would be something that typically what we do is we either get in committee or and you could, once those rules are effective. And I've got that backed up, that reference manual. I sent that out recently to Blair. And so we still have that. It's not, it didn't disappear. So we have it. And so when those rules are effective, I suspect, if things go according to plan, middle of next year, something to that effect, hopefully. And then Frank, as chair, you could call a committee, or you could, a couple of you could send me your changes. I collate those and then bring those to the full board. However you want to skin that would be fine.
Yeah, I think maybe at the next board meeting, I would create a special committee to review that.
Yeah.
And I guess if anybody is wanting to take part in that, you may or may not, because it could take some time. But just contact me and I'll get you on that committee.
You're not selling it really well.
I'm not trying to. I don't want somebody that wants to do it but ain't got the time to do it. I guess what I'm saying.
I wasn't even on the X, and I'm not on camera, and I even sleep down in my chair. It's instinctive.
Sorry.
More importantly, you're delaying lunch.
Oh, well, let's leave. I know I am, but some other things previously did that for me, so. Okay. Any other new business then? There being none, would.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, we got to do public comment, and then of course we can adjourn.
Never mind.
Do we have any public comment? We don't have anybody on the list, or?
Alex, did anyone sign in? I'm here, but I don't see anybody either. Okay, just making sure there wasn't something I'm missing. Okay, Melanie's telling me nobody on the WebEx or on this meeting. Do we have anyone in the building that is there present? If so, I'm gonna give you a moment here to walk to the podium. And do we have anyone that would like to make a public comment there?
I don't see any.
Okay, so there being none, then Chair, you would be free to adjourn us.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. We need a second. We don't need a second. We're
Oh,
adjourned.
you can just gavel us out. All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you.